almost dropped that before we even started. Okay, well, hello, all you cool cats and kittens. Today we are going over our week 5 video 2 notes. Our notes today are going to be a study guide for us over chapters 10.1 through 10.3. We are going to have a quiz on this information next week on Monday. And I believe that is May the, oh man, I don't know. It's either May the 1st, I think, or May the, no, May the 4th. I think it's May the 4th. I'll take a check and I'll look. I unfortunately can't look because it's on my phone and I'm videoing stuff right now. But our quiz is going to be next week on Monday. It's going to be over these 3 sections. If you know how to do this study guide, you're going to be really fine for the quiz. So make sure you are filling it out with me. Make sure you're getting all the same answers as me, and then make sure that you go back and you check your week 4 and your week 5 homework with my answer keys that I posted on Edmodo under the folders tab, because it would be really horrible if you were doing all this work and you didn't have any of the right answers. Okay, so we're going to go through our study guide here and it'll get us ready for our quiz on Monday. All right, so for each one of these problems that we see here, we're either going to find some arc measures, we're going to find some lengths, so we're just going to go ahead and get ourselves started. So we're going to find each arc measure that's listed over here on the right. Before I even get going on the ones that are over there on the right, I'm just going to ignore them for right now, and I'm just going to look at this circle, and I'm going to figure out all the arcs that are left over that are missing. So the first one that I can see is I can figure out what this arc CD is right here, because I know that this arc B to D is a 90-degree angle. I already know 53 of that 90 degrees. So to figure out what's left over right here, this arc CD, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take 90 degrees and I'm going to subtract 53 from it. And if I do that, I get 37 degrees. So this arc right here is 37 degrees. And so I'm just going to do all of the arcs first before I even get over here, because it's going to make my life way easier when I go to each one of those problems. Now, the other arc that I see here is AB, and I'll do this in a different color here. Here's AB right here. Now, to figure out AB, some of the things that I notice is I see that I have a diameter right here. A diameter goes from one edge of the circle to the other through the center. And if you have a diameter like this, that means all of the angles on one side should add up to be 180 degrees. Same with the angles on the other side. So I know that if EC is a diameter, then I can really easily figure out what this AB is, because this right here would be half a circle, it's 180. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 180 degrees and I'm going to subtract the 79 and the 53 from it, and that's going to give me what's left over for that angle, or excuse me, that arc AB. So I'm going to do 180 minus 79 and 53. So I'm going to add those two together, and then I'm going to subtract them from 180. So if I add together 79 and 53, I get 132. And if I subtract that from 180, I get 48 degrees. So I already know that this arc right here is 48 degrees. And then the last one that I'm going to find is this arc ED down over here. Again, I already know that EC is the diameter. So the two angles at the bottom, arc ED and arc DC, should add up to, again, be 180. So to find what this arc is right here, I'm going to take 180 and I'm going to subtract the 37, and that's going to give me what's left over for ED. So I'm going to do 180 minus 37. And if I do that, I get 143 degrees. So this whole arc right here is 143. Now that I have all of the marks written down, it's going to make my life way simpler to come over here and do these problems. So let's go through and do them very quickly. The measure of arc CD, oh, I already figured it out. It's 37 degrees. The measure of arc AB, I also figured out it's 48 degrees. The measure of arc ED, E to D, I already figured that out, 143. So see how much easier it is if I do all of the arcs first? It makes everything so much simpler. Arc EB, EB, now look, oh, I got some stuff on that one. Now, to get EB, I'm going to actually have to add together EA and arc AB. I'm going to have to add 79 and 48 together. So if I add those two together, I get 127 degrees. Okay? Next one, measure of arc BDE, and because there are 3 letters, that means it is a major arc, so it should be greater than 180 degrees. So BDE, BDE means start at B, go all the way to E, and add all of those angles or all of those arcs together. So to get BDE, I'm going to add 53 plus 37 plus 143. And if I add those all together, I get 233 degrees. Last one is measure of major arc DEC. So D, E to C is almost the entire thing. It says start at D, go through E, and end at C. So it's almost the full circle 360, except I'm going to take away this little piece that's left over. So you really have 2 choices. You can add up 143, 79, 48, and 53, or you can do 360 minus that leftover piece of 37. You're going to get the same answer either way. And when you do that, 323 degrees. Okay, so I did that one with the full colors. The next one I'm going to do a little bit easier without all those colors now this time. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure I have everything marked before I even come over to try to do the problems. So it says angle, the measure of angle MPL is 63 degrees. So find each angle measure, okay? So 63 degrees is MPL. So this angle right in here is 63. Well, whatever this angle is right here, because it's technically a central angle, that means this arc, ML, is also exactly the same. It's 63 degrees. Now, I know that this one's got a right angle right here, so arc KL is 90 degrees. Okay. I can figure out what this angle NM is very easily because I see that I have a diameter right here. NK is a diameter. So to figure out this little piece right here, NM, I'm going to take 180 and I'm going to subtract 90 and 63 from it, and that'll give me what's left over. So I'm going to do 180 minus 90 plus 63. So I'm going to add together 90 plus 63, and when I do that, I get 153, and then I'm going to subtract it from 180, and I get 153. I get 27 degrees. So this one right here, 27 degrees. Okay, I could do the same thing going the other way, but what I also notice is that these 2 angles right here are directly across from each other. They're the same size. They are vertical angles. So because they're vertical angles, that means their arcs are going to be the same. So if this is 27, that must mean this is 27. Okay, and then the last one to find this arc over here, N to J, again, I know that this is 180 degrees. So if I already have 27 of the 180 to figure out this last piece, NJ, that's left over, I'm going to take 180 and I'm going to subtract the 27. And if I do that, I should get 153. Yep. So this one over here is 153. And so now that I have them all marked, it's going to be way easier to find each measure that's asked over here. So the first one asks me to find the measure of arc JK. So J to K, I figured it out already, it's 27 degrees. Measure of arc NJ, N to J, I figured out, 153. Measure of arc JL, so J to L means I'm going to have to add the 27 and the 90 together. And if I do that, I get 117. Okay, there's one. Okay, next one asks for the measure of major arc, so it's going to be greater than 180, KNM. So start at K, go through N, and M, end at M. So from here all the way around to here, I'm just going to add up everything together. So I'm going to add 27 plus 153 plus 27. I already know that one of those is 180, and 180 plus 127 is 207 degrees. Okay, next one again, zoom out a little bit, is another major arc. The measure of major arc MJL, where's J? JL means start at M, go through J, and end at L. It's almost the entire thing, right? M all the way to L. So start here, go all the way through, and end over here. It's almost the full 360, except I have to take away this little piece of 63 that's left over. So for this one, you've got two choices. You can either add up all of these pieces together, or you can do 360 minus whatever's left over, 63. And if you do that, you get 297 degrees. Okay? Last one, measure of major arc JLK, J all the way through L, end at K. It's almost a full 360, except you have to take away this little sliver of the pizza or the circle, whatever you want to look at it as, and take away the 27 there. So I'm going to do 360 minus 27. And I get 333 degrees. All right, so be making sure that when there are only two letters, that means it's a minor arc, so it should be less than 180 degrees. If it's got three letters, that means it's a major arc. It should be greater than 180 degrees. So that's a quick way to tell if you're doing something right or not. Okay, next one. Number 3. If the measure of arc AD is that equation, and the measure of arc CD is the other equation there, find the measure of arc CD. Now, they tell me that arc AD, so this large piece right here, is 19x minus 49. So I'm going to plug that in or mark it on my picture. Degrees. The other one I know is CD, in a different color here. CD is right here. This one is 5x plus 37 degrees. Now, if I look at these two, what I notice is they're not the same size. However, if I put this pink and this blue piece together, I get this straight line right here. And this straight line, AC, is a diameter. If it is a diameter, that means my angles will add up to 180 degrees. It's a straight line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this equation and this equation, I'm going to add them together and set them equal to 180, and then I'm going to solve. So I'm going to do 19x minus 49 plus 5x plus 37 equals 180. And then it's just an algebra problem that I can solve pretty easily. So I'm going to put my x's together, 19x and 5x, and I get 24x. And then I'm going to put my constants, or my numbers, together. Now be careful, this is a negative, so negative 49 and a positive 37 gives me a negative 12. And then I set that equal to 180. Now it's just a regular algebra problem you know how to solve. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. On the left it will cancel. I've got 24x equals 192. And then to get my x by itself, I'm going to divide by 24. Divide by 24. I get x equals 8 degrees. Now that's great, but the problem asks me for the measure of arc CD. Okay, so arc CD is the blue one right here. Arc CD is 5x plus 37. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to substitute in the number 8 wherever I see the x. So I'm going to do 5 times 8 plus 37. So I get 40 plus 37. I end up getting 77 degrees. So this arc is 77 degrees. Make sure you put the degree symbol. If you don't, you get it wrong. Okay, number 4. Find the measure of angle LNM. LNM. So I want to know what this angle is right here. Now, the one thing I am given is that this angle LPM, so this angle right here is 108 degrees. Point P is my center. This angle right here is a central angle, LPM. I know that if I have a central angle, the arc that is that matches up with it, that's also excuse me, that's also connected to these same 2 points, arc LM, this arc right here has to be exactly the same as this central angle. So if this angle is 108 degrees, that means this arc length is also, arc measure, excuse me, is also 108 degrees. Now, this angle, LNM, is not a central angle because it doesn't go to the center. Angle LNM is an inscribed angle. It's on the inside. If I remember back from our last section, an inscribed angle is half of the arc measure. So if my arc measure is 108 degrees, to find this angle, I'm going to take half of it. I'm going to divide it by 2. And when I do that, I get 54 degrees. So this angle right here is 54 degrees. And that's it. So you have to understand what a central angle and what an inscribed angle is in order to do that problem. Looks very similar here to this problem number 5. I've got find the measure of arc RP. So from R to P, I want to know what this arc length is, what this arc degree is. In order to find that measure, I'm going to take this angle right here, RQP. QP is an inscribed angle, which means this one right here is half of this angle over here. Now, this time I'm going the opposite way. In this problem, I told you the arc measure was 108, and I asked you to find the angle measure. So I took this, and I took half of it. I divided it by 2. But in this problem, I'm telling you that this small angle right here is 68. So to get the arc measure, I'm going to take that 68, instead of dividing by 2, I'm going to multiply by 2. And when I do that, I get 136 degrees. So this arc measure is 136 degrees. Again, you have to understand the difference between central and inscribed angles in order to do those problems. Okay, number 6. Okay, so I've got a, oops, there you go. At number 6, I'm just asking you to find x. I tell you that this angle over here is 83 degrees, and then I give you an equation for this one out here. Now, I know this angle is inscribed. I have the angle right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double this angle, and that will give me this arc measure over here. So if I double this angle, it should equal this equation over here. So here's how I'm going to set it up. If I multiply 83 degrees times 2, if I double that, that should give me 9x plus 40. That should give me this arc measure over here. So now I'm just going to solve it like an algebra problem. 83 times 2 is 166. To get the x by itself, I'm going to subtract 40 from both sides. I get 126 equals 9x. My 40s will cancel. And then to get the x again by itself, I divide by 9. I get x equals 14 degrees. And that's all that the question asked me for. It did not ask me to plug anything in, so I just leave it as 14 degrees. And make sure, again, you put degrees because we are talking about angle measures here. Okay. Number 7 looks the same. I've got an inscribed angle. Okay, that means if I double the angle, 2 times the angle should give me the arc. So maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this. For inscribed angles, 2 times the angle equals the arc measure. Okay, and now I'm going to use that every single time to help me write my equations. So 2 times my angle is 5x plus 11 equals my arc measure, 16x minus 26. And now it is an algebra problem that I have to solve for. Okay. Now if you've got a 2 and you've got parentheses, I need to take this 2 and I need to distribute it to everything inside the parentheses. So 2 times 5x is 10x. 2 times 11 is 22. Now I'm going to get all my x's on one side, so I'm going to move the smaller x by subtracting the 10x. I guess I should put a line there. On both sides, I get 22 equals 6x minus 26. Let me get all the constants to one side, so I'm going to add 26 to both sides. I get 48 equals 6x, and then to get the x by itself, I divide by 6, divide by 6. So I end up getting that 8 degrees equals x. However, the problem asks me to find the measure of angle ABC. ABC is this angle right here. So ABC is 5x plus 11. Wherever I see an x, I'm going to substitute in my answer of 8. 5 times 8 is 40, and 40 plus 11 is 51 degrees. So I figured out the problem. Okay. Number 8. I want to find the measure of arc WX. So here is WX right here. Now, here's what you're noticing. You notice it kind of looks like two separate triangles almost. Well, this angle right here is an inscribed angle, and this is angle WUX. Notice that this angle matches up with this purple arc right here. The other angle I have right here is WYX. And notice that this angle also matches up with the same purple arc. I've got two overlapping angles. And because these two angles are overlapping and they cross at the same spot over here on the arc, these two angles are going to be exactly the same. They are equal to each other. So angle WVX is equal to angle WYX. They are congruent angles. So when I write my equation, I'm going to say that this angle is equal to this one. I'm just going to substitute in the equations. So 6x minus 7 equals 10x minus 47. And then I'm just going to solve for x. So I'm going to get all my x's on one side. I'm going to move the smaller one by subtracting 6x. Then I'm going to move all the constants to one side, so I'm going to add 47 on both sides. I get 40 equals 4x, and then I'm going to get the x by itself by dividing both sides by 4. I get x equals 10 degrees. However, the problem asks me for the arc measure of WX. I want to know what this piece is in purple right here. So I'm going to take this 10 and I'm going to plug it into one of these equations. Now it doesn't matter which one I plug it into because they're both exactly the same. So I'm going to plug it into angle WYX. Okay, so I've got 10x minus 47. Instead of the x, I'm going to plug in a 10. So 10 times 10 is 100. And 100 minus 47 is 53 degrees. So this little angle right here is 53 degrees. Well, that's great, but that is not what this arc is. To find that arc measure, it's just like these problems I did over here. 2 times the inscribed angle is the arc measure. So to find WX, arc WX, I have to take 2 times my inscribed angle. So 2 times 53. And when I do that, I get 106 degrees. So my answer is 106 degrees. That one was a little tricky. It was multiple steps here. All right, number 9. The measure of angle DGF. DGF. I want to know this one right here. Now, this is an inscribed quadrilateral. In an inscribed quadrilateral, angles that are opposite of each other are supplementary. So angle G and angle E are supplementary. Supplementary means they add up to be 180 degrees. So if I add angle G plus angle E, I should get 180 degrees. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. 4x plus 7, that's angle G, plus angle E is 8x minus 31 equals 180. Now it's just a regular algebra problem, and let's combine like terms. 4x and 8x gives me 12x. 7 and negative 31 gives me negative 24. I'm going to get the constants to one side, so I'm going to add 24 to both sides. On the left it will cancel. I have 12x equals 204. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 12 to get the x alone. I get x equals 17 degrees. Well, that's great, but the question asks me for the measure of angle DGF. So I want to know what is angle G. So I'm going to take the equation for angle G, and I'm going to plug in, substitute in my 17 anywhere I see an x. So it's 4 times 17 and then plus 7. And if I do that, I get 68, and I add 7 to it, I get angle G is 75 degrees. So always make sure you're reading the question and following and what the directions are. Don't just stop just because you found the x. All right, measure of angle QTS. QTS. So I want to know what this angle is right over here. Now, if you remember from our last video here, in order to find this angle, I took the two arcs that were intercepted, I added them together, and then I took half of it. So I take the arc plus the arc, the two intercepted ones, and then I divide it by 2. So the intercepted arc with this angle are the ones that are opposite of it. So that would be 80 and 154. I'm going to add those two together, and then I'm going to divide it by 2. So if I add 80 and 154, I get 234 degrees. And then I divide that by 2. I get that this angle right here is 117 degrees. And that's it. I'm all done. Intercepted angles. Same thing over here for number 11. The angle, right, because I've got an angle right here, I've got an arc and an arc. Okay, so the angle is always equal to the arc plus the arc, the two intercepted ones, divided by 2. Now this one's a little different because it's asking me to find the measure of arc JH. I want to know what this side is. That's okay. I'm still going to set it up the same way, but I'm going to make sure I plug in my numbers into the right spot here. So I already know the angle. The angle is 55 equals arc plus arc divided by 2. So my first arc is 76. My second arc is the unknown, the x. And I divide it by 2. And now it becomes an algebra problem. I want to get the x by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this divided by 2 by multiplying by 2. And whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. So 2 times 55 gives me 110. These 2's, 2 divided by 2, cancel, so I'm left with 76 plus x. And then to get the x by itself, I subtract 76. And I get x equals 34 degrees, and the x is the arc, JH, so I am finished. The answer is 34 degrees. Okay, number 12. Again, I've got some intercepted, I've got an arc that is on the actual circle. So I've got arcs formed by a line that goes onto the actual circle here. Now, I know this angle right here is 74 degrees. I want to know BEA. I want to know what this whole arc measure is over here. Now, this arc, I've got a couple different ways that I can go about it. To figure out what this angle is right here, right, this would be considered an intercepted arc. So to figure out this arc over here, B to C, I can take this 74 and I can just double it, right? So if I wanted to figure out, not B to C, I'm sorry, it should have been B to A. if I want to figure out this arc right here, all I have to do is take 74 and I can multiply it times 2. And if I do that, I get 148 degrees. So this piece in orange is 148 degrees. Now, to figure out this arc over here, BEA, I essentially just want to know what the rest of that circle would be. Well, to figure that out, it's really easy because I know that in a circle, all of the angles, right, or all of my arcs should add up to be 360 degrees. I already have 148 of that 360, so I'm just going to take 360 and subtract 148. I'm going to take away this orange part, and that's going to give me what's left over in the blue. That gives me 212 degrees. That is one way you could have figured this out. Here's a second way, and you can do it whichever way you kind of understand more. You know that this angle right here is 74 degrees. You can find, I'll use a green, you can find this angle over here because you know that these two added together gives you 180 degrees. It's a straight line. So you can actually figure out angle BAD by taking 180 and subtracting the 74. If you do that, you get 106 degrees. So this piece in green is 106 degrees. And then to figure out the arc that matches up with it, this is an intercepted arc, or excuse me, an inscribed angle here. So the arc measure is going to be double the angle. So to figure out BEA, you can also take that 106 and multiply it times 2. You can just double it, and that will give you the exact same thing. Guess what? It also gives you 212 degrees. So you kind of have two options of how you can go about doing that problem. Okay, last few. All right. This time here, I've got some angles that are outside of the circle. Anytime you have ones that are outside, it almost kind of looks like a party hat inside of a circle. You have to remember that your angle is always equal to the big arc minus the small arc, big arc minus the small arc, and then I divide that by 2. And that's always going to be for any of these ones that are outside of the circle here. So I've asked you to find, TUV is the angle, so I don't know the angle. So the angle equals my big arc that is attached to it here would be SW. Here's my big arc, 145, minus my small arc. It's also intercepted with this angle here is 53. And then I divide that by 2. So if I subtract these two, I get 92. And if I divide 92 by 2, I get 46 degrees. So this angle over here, 46 degrees. Okay. I see another party hat. It goes outside of the circle. So I know my angle is equal to my big arc minus my small arc divided by 2. I'm asking you to find FGH, so I'm asking you to find the angle, okay? Now, I am only giving you one angle right here, excuse me, one arc. This arc is the small one. I don't know what the big one is. In order to figure out this big arc over here, the big one is everything that's left over here in green. So I know the whole thing is 360 degrees. I already have 97 of that 360. So to figure out what's left over in green, I'm going to take 360 and subtract 97. And when I do that, I get 263 degrees. So my big arc is 263. Now that I have it, I can plug that into the equation. Big arc is 263 minus small arc is 97 divided by 2. If I subtract these two first, because parentheses comes first, I get 166. And if I divide that by 2, I get that the angle is 83 degrees. And again, remember, I'm putting a degree symbol. Okay. Final 2. All right. Again, I see kind of an arc that goes outside, so I know my equation is angle equals big arc minus the small arc divided by 2. Now, this time I am given this piece here is the angle. This piece over here, the 21, is my small arc. And I don't know what my big arc is this time. So this time I'm going to be kind of writing my equation a little bit differently. Okay, so angle equals, my angle is 59. Angle equals big arc, I don't know, so whoops. So I'm just going to put an X there because that's what I'm going to try and figure out. So my big arc is X minus my small arc is 21. And then I'm going to take that whole thing and I'm going to divide it by 2. Now, I want to get the X by itself, so the first thing I'm going to do is take this whole thing, and to get rid of divided by 2, I'm going to multiply by 2. I'm going to do it on both sides. So 2 times 59 is 118. My 2's over here will cancel. I'm left with X minus 21. Then I add the 21 to both sides. Cancels on the right. I get 139 degrees equals X. And X was my big arc. So I solved what I was looking for. The answer is 139 degrees. So if you always write it out, the equations like I did like this, you'll never make a mistake. You'll never do the wrong. You'll never find the wrong part. Okay, last problem. Again, I see kind of like a party hat. It's outside of the circle. So I already know my equation is angle equals big arc minus small arc divided by 2. So let's figure out all the pieces that are given to me here. I'm asking you to find x, y, z. X, y, z. So I'm asking you to find the angle. You don't know it, right? That's what you're trying to find. You are given the small arc, aren't you? I also need the big arc, but I've got a problem now. Here's my big arc in orange. And you're going to see that I don't have the big arc given to me. And that's a problem because I'm trying to find the angle. I should only have one unknown in a problem. I shouldn't have more than one. So I have to figure out if I can come up with the big arc in some way. Well, I also happen to see that this arc right here in this pinky color is 136 degrees. I also know that this small arc is 48 degrees. To figure out what's left in orange, to figure out the big arc, I know if I were to add the pink plus the green plus the orange, I should get 360 degrees. So to figure out my big arc, which is WZ, right, I can take 360 and I can subtract 136 and 68 from it. Ooh, I have a white up. It should be 136. My bad. 136 plus 68. And that's going to give me what's left over here in the orange. And then once I have that, I can actually plug it into the equation here. So if I add 136 plus 68, I get 204. And so if I do 360 minus 204, I get 156. So my big arc is 156. Okay, now I have all the information that I need, and I can actually figure out what the equation is now by doing this. So I'm trying to solve for the angle. I don't know it. I've got my big arc is 156 minus my small arc is 68 all over divided by 2. So if I subtract 156 minus 68, I will get 88 degrees. And if I divide 88 degrees divided by 2, I get 44 degrees. So this measure of angle XYZ is 44 degrees. Okay, so we are now finished with our study guide for your chapter 10.1 through 10.3 quiz that you are going to have on Monday, and I believe it is the 4th, I think. That quiz is only going to be on Monday and Tuesday. It will close on Tuesday, and if you don't do it, then you're not going to get a grade for it. You need to make sure as well that you show your work when it comes to the test. If you just do the test and you do not turn in any work, you will not get a grade for the test. The other thing to be aware of is that your test itself is going to be on Microsoft Teams, but then you will submit your work for your test on Edmodo. So I know there was some problems with that the last time. Please make sure that you submit your test through Microsoft Teams and your work through Edmodo. If you do not do both of them, you will get a 0 no matter what. Okay, you must show work in order to earn credit, period. All right, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope this helped you out. Make sure that if you have any questions, you message me, because the day of your quiz on Monday, I will not be able to help you. So if you have any questions, either ask me today, Thursday, or ask me tomorrow on Friday. But otherwise, that's it for us. If you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to reach out. Thanks so much. Have a great day, guys.